We will make sure that if there were violations, that they won't be tolerated. But when we know what those facts are and the impact it has on our game, we'll deal with it very seriously.
Yeah, all of our players, and I'd include Shedeur in this, are working extremely hard. We just finished our period after practice that we do every single day. Just finished a red zone 7-on-7 period where Shedeur and the rest of the younger guys are working on 10 reps. So he needs to continue to do exactly what he's been doing and continue to do what all these guys are doing, which is just keep working.
Rex Ryan just did one of the fastest 180 seconds in recent NFL media history. 1 week ago, he was dragging Shedeur Sanders through the mud, calling him undeserving, unproven, and not even fit to back up a backup. Now, he's calling Sanders the future of the league and blasting the Browns for not starting him. What happened? Did Rex Ryan suddenly discover Shedeur's talent overnight? Not even close. Because what started as a brutal NFL hot take quickly turned into a full-blown media firestorm, one that went so far, even league executives and NFL owners got involved. And once the heat started closing in, Rex Ryan didn't just back down, he completely reversed his entire message. But not before sparking one of the most uncomfortable conversations in the league about power, reputation, double standards, and who actually gets to speak boldly in today's NFL. This isn't just about a quarterback. This is about how one careless comment nearly ended a media career and shined a light on how fragile your public image really is when the entire league is watching. So, what caused Rex Ryan's meltdown? What's the truth about Shedeur Sanders being targeted? And why was the commissioner reportedly ready to step in? Let's break it all down.
What we want to see, and make no mistake, Alex, we talked about this yesterday. You said there's 2 first-round picks that they have next year, right?
Yep.
So this is about, let's see what we have. Are one of these guys going to be our quarterback moving forward?
Right.
And to me, look, I was saying something about Shedeur Sanders. And to me, I just know this kid has so much ability.
Rex Ryan knew how to make headlines. He's been doing it for years. But this time, he pushed too far. In what started as just another segment on live TV, Ryan didn't hold back when asked about Shedeur Sanders. He scoffed at the idea of starting him and claimed the Browns had better options, even saying Sanders didn't belong anywhere near the starting lineup. In fact, he doubled down, suggesting veteran Joe Flacco, who stepped in multiple times in past seasons, was a more reliable backup than Sanders. To be clear, Ryan wasn't simply stating an opinion on depth charts. He dismissed Shedeur's entire potential in just a few blunt sentences. And that didn't sit well with a lot of people. Fans immediately flooded comment sections and social platforms, pointing out the irony Ryan critiquing a young quarterback who hadn't even been given a real chance to play. Sanders, still developing and grinding through training camps, was being compared to someone who's practically played a full NFL career. Then came the players. Cam Newton, never shy with his words, stepped in and called it exactly what it looked like, a circus. He criticized the league not just for allowing these kinds of narratives, but for the way black quarterbacks are repeatedly placed under harsher microscopes than their counterparts.
Joe Flacco, can't get it done anymore. So bring Shedeur Sanders up with the young kid, the lefty, and now your first and second team. I was saying something about Shedeur Sanders, and to me, I just know this kid has so much ability that I want to see him out there like anybody else.
Yeah.
And why the hell he's not out there?
It makes no sense.
According to Cam, some of the same qualities fans celebrate in other players, like confidence, swagger, or taking control of their image, become ammunition when it comes to guys like Shedeur. And he wasn't alone. Michael Irvin, an NFL Hall of Famer and vocal analyst, followed up by questioning Ryan's real position. If Shedeur were so unworthy, Irvin asked, then why was Rex suddenly so focused on him? Why take the time to tear someone down unless they already have potential? Irvin called out the inconsistency and flat out said Ryan should be backing young quarterbacks, not helping tear them down before they even get started. All of this heated pushback in less than 48 hours. The controversy grew so fast that even NFL reporters started digging into how this entire situation unfolded. And if Rex thought it would blow over like most hot takes, he was badly mistaken. Because what was once a single comment on air had now turned into a full-blown NFL storyline.
Shedeur Sanders. And when are we going to start realizing that you cannot control people? Some of the same things that people ridicule Shedeur Sanders is also the same things that makes people like Jackson Dart, It's in the eye of the beholder when you're regarding.
And as the noise around Ryan's remarks grew louder, so did the consequences. But that was just the beginning, because what happened next involves some of the league's most powerful names making calls behind the scenes. The backlash over Rex Ryan's comments didn't just stay online, it ballooned into something much bigger. What seemed like a fiery hot take quickly caught the attention of people who don't usually weigh in on media commentary: NFL owners and league executives. And that's when everything changed. Behind closed doors, insiders say the reaction from some team owners was immediate and heated. They weren't upset about football opinions, they were concerned about optics. Rex had just taken public shots at a young, high-profile, marketable black quarterback, one who hadn't even played a snap, and the tone felt personal, not professional. According to leaked reports from insiders close to NFL media, Ryan's comments were viewed as not just reckless, but potentially damaging to the league's brand. And anytime the league's image is at risk, things move fast. So fast that Roger Goodell, yes, the commissioner himself, was reportedly briefed on the situation. Multiple sources claim that Goodell's office saw this as part of a larger problem, known commentators stirring controversy by undermining rising stars, all for views. And Rex Ryan, a familiar face in the NFL's media circle, had just painted a target on his own back. One source went as far as saying Rex's job with major networks was being quietly reviewed, with serious discussion about whether his presence still aligned with the NFL's image. In other words, Ryan might have just talked himself out of a career. Even sponsors raised eyebrows. Brands don't like controversy that isn't under their control, especially not when it involves mistreating a young player that fans, especially Gen Z, support based on culture and personality just as much as performance. The league wasn't going to terminate him on the spot. That would have created even more headlines. But behind the scenes? The message was clear. Fix this, or you're done. Ryan must have gotten the call, because over the course of just a few days, his entire tone shifted. He went from mockery to admiration, from critique to praise, from brushing aside Shedeur Sanders to defending him like he'd always believed in his potential. But by then, most in the NFL media space weren't buying it. And in locker rooms, boardrooms, and broadcast studios, they were watching closely. Because the truth is, getting backlash is one thing, but when the league itself starts asking questions, it's no longer just about one comment, it's about your future. And for Rex Ryan, that future was slipping fast. Just days after tearing down Shedeur Sanders on national TV, Rex Ryan walked it all back, almost like he'd never said it in the first place. In a matter of 72 hours, he flipped from calling Shedeur undeserving of a roster spot to saying he's the type of quarterback the Browns should be building their franchise around. The internet watched in real time as Rex tried to spin his narrative. He claimed his initial take was misunderstood. He doubled down on supporting young talent and argued that he wasn't against Shedeur, he was just frustrated with how the Browns were managing their QB pipeline. Now suddenly, Sanders was full of immense potential, and Rex was advocating for him to replace Joe Flacco as the official backup. Just like that, he wasn't criticizing, he was campaigning, but hardly anyone believed it. Even casual fans saw it for what it was, a pressure-fueled pivot, the kind that only happens when someone behind the curtain makes a phone call and tells you, "Fix this right now." What made it worse was that there was no acknowledgement of the shift, no apology, no accountability, just a clean slate rebrand of an opinion that hadn't even had time to cool. To everyone watching, it felt fake. Even NFL analysts who normally steer clear of media drama began commenting on the flip. One host from an ESPN affiliate called it one of the most obvious PR moves we've ever seen. Another journalist tweeted, "You can't go scorched earth on a kid one week and try to save his jersey the next." And here's the thing, Rex isn't new to controversy. His entire media career was built on saying the loud thing in the room. But this wasn't confidence, it was damage control. His sudden praise didn't sound like belief. It sounded like survival, because the moment his seat got a little too hot and the NFL started asking questions, he changed course, fast. And while the words might have been different, the motive was clear. Protect the brand, hold the seat, stay in the game. But one thing Rex underestimated, the media world might move fast. But these days, the internet never forgets. And the flip wouldn't be the end of the story. Because it wasn't just the backlash that got him, it was the wave that came after. The critics, the players, and the fans all had more to say. And what came next would put even more pressure on Rex to face what he tried to escape. Once Rex Ryan flipped his stance on Shedeur Sanders, one thing became immediately clear. No one was letting him off the hook. The media wasn't buying it, the fans weren't buying it. Even former players who usually stay neutral started speaking out. And the pressure? It didn't just come from a few angry tweets. It came from every angle, and it was relentless. NFL shows that once gave Rex hours of airtime were now dissecting his hypocrisy. Side-by-side clips of him bashing Sanders one day, then praising him the next, went viral. Sports anchors were labeling it the most obvious self-preservation we've ever seen. On debate panels, other analysts even laughed out loud at Rex's sudden shift, calling it desperate. Twitter lit up with threads calling out the double standards being placed on young black quarterbacks, highlighting how confidence from someone like Shedeur is spun as arrogance, while others with the same energy get labeled as gritty or competitive. And people noticed. Every comment Rex made before his backtrack was reposted, picked apart, and replayed, adding more fuel to a conversation that had now moved way beyond football. Influencers took hold of the narrative, turning it into a cultural flashpoint. Rex wasn't just a football analyst anymore. He was now part of a much bigger discussion, one about race, media bias, and credibility in sports commentary. Major publications like Bleacher Report and USA Today ran with headlines about the controversy. Some called it a calculated pivot. Others called it a crisis move. Either way, it was becoming impossible to scroll online without seeing Rex's face on a split screen with the words backlash, flip, or damage control plastered in bold. Even fans who had no loyalty to Sanders were defending him not because of fandom, but because of fairness. The general feeling was this: if Rex had just criticized Shedeur's play, that's one thing. But the way he did it public, personal, and dismissive turned him into the story instead. And still, despite the backlash, Rex kept talking. Maybe because he thought staying visible was his only chance to stay relevant. Or maybe because he didn't know how deep this storm would go. But that's the thing about media heat, it doesn't burn out on its own. And just when it seemed like the public pressure couldn't get worse, a new voice stepped in, turning up the fire even more. While Rex Ryan scrambled to recover his reputation, Shedeur Sanders found himself thrown into a spotlight he didn't ask for. Suddenly, he wasn't just being evaluated as a future NFL quarterback, he was being dissected as a public figure. His demeanor, his confidence, even his personality became topics of debate across sports media. And for what? He hadn't played a snap in the NFL. He didn't go on social media and clap back. He wasn't trash-talking on camera. Shedeur was simply being Shedeur, calm, confident, and in control of his own image. But somehow, that was enough to spark a national conversation. Cam Newton quickly stepped up with one of the boldest takes in the discourse, saying outright, "This isn't about talent, this is about control." According to Cam, the reason Sanders caught so much heat from guys like Rex Ryan and from parts of the media in general is because he refuses to conform. He knows his value, he owns his narrative. And that, to some people, makes him a target. Cam didn't hold back. He compared the treatment of Shedeur to the way other quarterbacks are treated when they show swagger or self-belief. When guys like Jackson Dart or Baker Mayfield speak with fire, it's passion. When Shedeur does it, suddenly it's ego. It's a pattern, and Cam called it out point blank. Then came Michael Irvin, and his message was even more personal. Irvin reminded fans that athletes are supposed to have confidence, and that Shedeur's self-belief is what got him this far. He asked the question everyone was already thinking: why are we punishing a young black quarterback for believing he belongs in the league? Irvin also flipped the lens back onto Rex. He said, if Ryan really believed in Sanders, he would have said that from the start. You don't tear a kid down and then turn around pretending to support him. Meanwhile, coach Kevin Stefanski tried to quiet the storm without feeding it. In a press conference, he doubled down on Shedeur's work ethic, rejecting the idea that he was lazy or self-important. According to the coach, Sanders was hitting every rep in camp, staying focused and showing real progress. But the narrative was already out there, because once the media aims its spotlight fairly or not, it's nearly impossible to dim it. And for Shedeur, he wasn't just defending his skills anymore. Now he was being forced to defend his entire identity. But the drama didn't stop there, because what happened next reached straight into the power circles of the NFL. Once it became clear that Rex Ryan's comments about Shedeur Sanders had turned explosive, the conversation left public view and moved behind closed doors. Because this wasn't just about TV ratings anymore. It had officially become a league-wide image crisis. According to credible reports from inside league circles, The backlash wasn't just trending online, it was echoing through executive offices, team ownership meetings, and yes, even inside the NFL league office itself. Sources close to the situation say that Roger Goodell's team was briefed on the fallout surrounding Rex Ryan's remarks. And the tone from the top? Not good. League officials saw the situation as more than a bad take. They saw a personal attack on a rising black quarterback, delivered by a league-approved analyst, and now being blasted across every sports network in America. That's not something the NFL, a league constantly opening new initiatives around equality and representation, can afford to ignore. One major network executive even told a sports reporter anonymously, "If you think Goodell doesn't care what's said on air about rookie quarterbacks, think again. That's the league's future and narratives matter." What followed next was subtle but serious. Behind the scenes, multiple media partners started quietly assessing Rex Ryan's future in the rotation. His credibility had taken a hit, and now his value as a commentator was being questioned, not because of what he had said about football, but because of how much damage it caused off the field. Rumors surfaced that franchise owners were furious, with some questioning why league media figures were allowed to push controversial agendas that reflect poorly on teams and players alike. One source even claimed that several ownership groups placed Rex on an informal watch list, not to silence him, but to make sure it never happened again. Some insiders went a step further, hinting that Rex Ryan's career was closer to being over than anyone realized. If the commissioner had decided to step in directly, everything could have changed overnight. In the end, a series of mediation conversations behind closed doors reportedly pulled Rex back from the edge. He wasn't fired, but he was warned, loud and clear. What resulted was a complete narrative overhaul. Rex in full backpedal mode, praising Shedeur, preaching patience, and pleading for more opportunity for young quarterbacks. But even that didn't save his reputation, because the public had already made up its mind, and Rex had already crossed the line. Now, the only question that remained? Could he survive the storm he created? Or was this the beginning of the end? Lost in the headlines, viral clips, and damage control is an uncomfortable truth. This entire controversy was never just about football. It wasn't about quarterback rankings. It wasn't about Joe Flacco or depth charts or snap counts. It was about narrative control and who gets to tell someone else's story. Because when Rex Ryan torched Shedeur Sanders on air, it wasn't based on hard stats or insider reports. It was a gut opinion, delivered with confidence but without credibility, and that's exactly what made it so dangerous. In today's NFL, perception drives reality. One viral soundbite can shift how fans, coaches, and even front office executives view a player. Media narratives have enough weight to shape careers for better or worse. And when those narratives come from a face as familiar as Rex Ryan, they carry even more influence. That's what makes this situation significant. Rex didn't just express an unpopular opinion, he threw doubt on a young man's reputation without proof, in a league where optics shape opportunity. And when he realized the blowback was personal, professional, and deeply cultural, he caved. But here's the part that's not being talked about enough. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It was a spotlight on a systemic pattern where confident young black quarterbacks are often told to humble themselves while others are praised for the exact same mindset. Where certain players are allowed to build brands and show personality, while others are expected to quietly earn their respect behind closed doors. Shedeur Sanders didn't cause this storm, but he's been weathering it like someone far beyond his age. He didn't clap back. He didn't stir the pot. He stayed focused while the media spun. Because, in the NFL, sometimes your biggest challenge isn't the game, it's surviving everything that happens off the field. As for Rex Ryan, his sudden praise after public condemnation might have quieted the owners and salvaged his broadcasting seat for now, but his legacy took a hit that won't be forgotten anytime soon. He reminded the world that saying the wrong thing about the wrong player at the wrong time can flip your entire career upside down. And this saga? It's a wake-up call to every analyst in the game. You can have opinions, but in today's NFL, you'd better have receipts to back them up. Rex Ryan's flip-flop on Shedeur Sanders didn't just expose his own inconsistency, it revealed a lot more about how power, media, and perception collide in the NFL. One moment, a respected analyst casually dismisses a young quarterback as unready. The next, he's forced into public praise just to protect his own brand. That alone tells you everything you need to know about how fast things move and how high the stakes really are. This wasn't just an oops moment on live TV. It spiraled into a league-wide debate, pulled in NFL legends, raised questions about race, confidence, and equal treatment, and required behind-the-scenes damage control just to avoid permanent fallout. It showed that in today's NFL, the court of public opinion doesn't just influence media narratives, it can shape careers. And not just for players like Shedeur Sanders, but for the so-called experts trying to define their story. Rex Ryan is a cautionary tale. One careless shot, one dismissive tone, one unverified claim, and suddenly, your decades of experience don't protect you at all. Not when social media, fans, players, and league officials are all watching and holding receipts. But what's really wild? This entire situation could have played out very differently. If Rex had stuck by his original opinion, maybe he would have earned respect for at least owning it. If Shedeur had taken the bait and fired back, he'd probably be called a distraction by the same media that started the storm. Instead, the young quarterback kept grinding, the analysts changed his story, and the public saw something rare. What happens when words finally have consequences? And now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Rex Ryan actually learned a lesson, or did he just panic when the heat got real? Was Shedeur Sanders unfairly targeted just for being confident and building his own brand? And bigger picture, should analysts be held accountable for reckless opinions even if they're just doing their job? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we're reading everything. Because whether it's on the field or on the mic, accountability is long overdue in this league, and this might just be the turning point.